Greetings, Black Light. Most black people think that Caucasians have special privileges. This is why most black people want to live in this system, because they think that the Caucasoid have an advantage. But if they study history, they see that the only advantage that the Caucasoid ever had was warfare. He's a scientist of war. He knows how to produce weapons of mass destruction. He's a scholar of war. He studies most cultures' approach to war, and just like Ali studying his opponent before a major fight. Ali studies the video, looks for flaws, develops a strategy of his own. He have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. He knows how to adjust and adapt to his opponent's style and end up making his opponent fight his fight. Studying the Caucasian. And the Caucasian studies other cultures and master their culture and their style. And this is what he's good at. But there's no wisdom in that. There's no wisdom in his politics or his logic. Because in the end, what goes around comes around. And when you done the majority of the world evil and wrong, they're gonna come back for revenge. The ones that he done wrong have always been people of color, more so than his people. That's the only privilege that he gives his people, is he's a little more easier. But he can't tell his enemy and his people because they the same color. But the black man and the brown man and the yellow man, he could tell automatically that they his enemy. Even if they not his enemy, he could distinguish himself from them, and he could tell potentially that they are his enemy. Where his white brother could blend in, and he can never tell that he's an enemy unless he gives himself away. But the thing is the system is unrighteous. It's an unjust system. It was founded on corruption. It can never, ever be right, because he's not right. His nature is not right. His nature is corrupt, because he's synthetic. He's made from the original. So when you're made from the original, you're not you unreal. You're not real. You're unreal. So everything he does is an illusion. It's a trick tool, tricknology, to make you think that it's right, but it's not. That's why we in this pandemic. That's why we having all these different stories about the pandemic. One minute they tell you to wear a mask, the next minute they tell you don't wear a mask. Because he's trapped his own self in a corner. And he's trying to figure out a way to get out of it. But he always had planned on population control, because the elections are becoming more and more colored. You got the brown, the red, and the yellow, and the black man populating the United States, producing more babies than he produces. Matter of fact, his birth rate has slowed down. And no matter how many black people and brown people he killed, we still produce at the same rate, at the same birth rate. We might not even have no elections, even though he's trying to make things seem normal. But all that protesting without wearing masks, he's going to say that the virus is resurging. The virus is resurging. And you don't have to vote from your house. Vote from your home. Now, how can you ensure yourself that the elections is going to be true, going to be right? There's no way that the average person could count votes from their house. I'm not saying it's definitely going to be that way, but you can't put nothing past the Caucasian. The best thing for the black man to do is to separate and do for self. Right where he's at. We don't have to go nowhere. All we got to do is stand our ground, keep our powder dry. And we don't have to be the aggressor, but when he comes trying to stick you with that vaccination, you might have to defend yourself if you don't be a fool and get a vaccination, because that what's in that vaccination don't nobody know. But that's what he's leading up to. He's leading up to everyone getting vaccinated and tracking who got the virus. And so he's going to probably come to your house. You're going to probably have to take a test to see if you got the virus or not. You might just have a cold, but he's going to say you got the virus. You might just have a toothache, but he say you got the virus. And you're going to have to be shot, get a vaccination. Else, he could quarantine you. He could take your children away from you. Separate you from your children. Separate you from your husband. Separate you from your parents. This is tricknology. Most people are not paying attention to that. They caught up in the George Floyd murder, and they're not paying any attention to war that's always been waged on the black man. Ever since the black man came into this country, we've been a prisoner of war. Don't seem like it, but think about it. That's why the police is acting a fool, because they your keepers, they your jailers. Even though you're not behind bars, uh, you're in a certain income bracket, you're in a certain neighborhood, they call it ghetto. So they're gonna treat you like they the turnkey and you the criminal. I think that these protesters are nothing but a trick to lead you right back in the pandemic. This is Black Light.